A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to subscribe. So in today's video, we're looking at two products. Poorboys Black Hole, which is described as a show car glaze for dark coloured vehicles, which hides swirls and gives you a high gloss slick finish. Contains cleaners and fillers used in sun or shade, used before wax or sealants, which is interesting. Safe for all vehicle finishes, used on chrome and platings. Easy on and off formula, hand or machine use. A good little summary of the product there. And then Auto Finesse Triple all-in-one polish. So, you know, this is a polish and glaze wax for your paintwork, easy application. Triple has a deep cleaning action while adding carnauba wax protection for deep wet shine in no time. I see these products as very similar. They're products which you basically buff onto the car and shine, and they're sort of like thicker emulsions. You could describe them as hand polishes, you could describe them as all-in-ones, you could describe them as glazes, pre-wax cleaners, I suppose, because they've got cleaner in them and you can use them prior to putting the wax on. I believe they both contain wax, that says it, and I think this has some wax in its formula as well. So using these as a precursor to a sealant might not always be ideal, depending on what that sealant's trying to do, because it might be trying to bond to a layer of wax. And obviously using both of these before a ceramic coating would probably be a no-go for the same reason, that the coating's not going to bond. You want bare prep for some of those. So I tend to use these, and standalone protection, I think you'll get like maybe 2 to 3 months out of the Poorboys, and maybe about 2 months out of the Triple. I would say from using these that the Poorboys might just last a little tiny bit longer, but neither of them are particularly durable. They're not mega hydrophobic products, but they do add beading, you know, they do add a repellency to it from the wax and all that sort of stuff. They're not mega protective products. Neither are these true paint correction tools. You're not going to use these to cut and take out sanding marks and do paint correction. It's really a way of finishing your paintwork, preparing paintwork that's already good, resetting paintwork and buffing on it to remove any films or stuff like that, glossing up paintwork. Like we've mentioned, you could top them with waxes. That would be more ideal. Perhaps some sealants. I find that if you top them with water-based products, like these bead coat and seal and shine, that tends to work. Even though in theory it shouldn't, but it does just seem to work quite well with water-based toppers. So let's compare them. This first product, typically the Poorboys Black Hole costs around $16.95. You can beat that price because lots of different places sell it. But typically around $16.95 for 500 ml, which is pretty decent actually for an American kind of brand that's got to come over here. And it's affordable. I'm just putting a little bit more on because that pad's going to be bone dry and it's going to take a lot of that polish into it for that first thing. Now another thing is we're using this with a very soft finishing pad. If you want to get a bit more scrubbing action on your paint and work the product a bit harder, you could use it on a medium or cutting pad. That applies to both of these. When you use it on a finishing pad, you're not really removing clear coat and fixing scratches. You're just sort of like buffing away on the surface, perhaps cleaning the paint, you know, and preparing it and all that sort of stuff. But like I say, like a reset is a good term for it. Now I just want to go straight in live and use the Poorboys Black Hole. Now you can use this on different coloured paints, but obviously it's for black cars, perhaps darker paints, and they have like, I think it's called white diamond for lighter cars. I just tend to go with this. It's not, the pigment in it I don't think is relevant, the fact it's a grey polish. I think it's just probably for black cars because it might be a bit heavier with filler or something like that. Now you can just put this on your pad and just whiz over the panel and just buff it till it starts to thin out and go translucent, and then let it haze and buff it off. And the amount of polish I've put on here, I could probably do the whole bonnet or at least half the bonnet. But you can, again, if you want to work it a bit more, take your time with it and go slower with your passes and work it a bit longer to, you know, if you need to with a stiffer pad. So I'm just on a medium speed on the machine polisher, and we just work that into the paint. So it's just like using a polish. I want to bring you in so you can just see it's quite a translucent product. You don't need a lot of it, it's still being applied. I've not got great control with one hand here, but you can see I'm still putting it out on the panel. Let's just go back over here. When the product starts disappearing, it's at that point when you should probably buff it. Now you can leave this product, and just let it haze out a bit more, and you'll start to see it as it dries, but it doesn't give you a real kind of noticeable rapid cure to like a dry crust. It tends to stay like, you know, like it is. But the reason I love this is because just scrubbing over that paintwork gets me back to like the finish that I want on my car without doing paint correction, you know, without polishing each time and removing clear coats. You've heard me talk about loads of time on the channel. But the reason I like it is it's so damn easy to buff off of the car. It just doesn't leave, you know, you can see a little bit of it there. It just lifts off the panel like, I don't know what the word is, but you know, it's never a problem to buff, and it buffs really, really slick. And that's the reason that I've kept Poorboys over God knows how many glazes I've had my hands on. It's one of the few that I keep because I know what it's going to do. It's really these two are the ones that I've kept, and the only other one I'd say is the Rupes Uno Advanced, which is a bit more abrasive as well. So it's more of a finishing polish / nano sealant. Very good product as well. It's probably worth putting that in there. But you know what you're going to get with the Poorboys. So you're going to get a product which has a slight waxy feel to it, but a very smooth, slick buff. Yes, easy on, easy off. It's going to prepare your paint, shine it up, reset it, get off whatever's on there, get you back to a jet black finish, and you could just leave it at that, and you'll get a couple of months of protection. This could be your protection product really, and in 2 months, just go back on with some more, and that's it. It's old school though, so it doesn't have that banging durability. So less people seem to talk about these old school products, but I just think, Jesus, this is fantastic. Now, I think always just demoing it is really good as well. So I'm just going to change pads. So we'll rip this pad off. Come on. One thing with all-in-ones or glazes, cleaning out the pads, when polishers just flush out of the pads and break down, but these AOIs are a bit like AIOs, are a bit more waxy, and the more you use them, if you stick with one pad and work your way through the car, the pad gets saturated with wax, and then when you go to clean it, it all like squeezes out of the pad and it doesn't break down in water. So if you're cleaning these out, I would always recommend sink and hot water, steaming hot water and loads of detergent rather than cold water and things like that. That seems to work well. So we'll just put, hold on, I need my hands. Sorry, I need my hands. So we'll just put a clean pad on there. That should roughly do. It's a bit off centre, but that'll be all right. Now, Tripple. First thing with Tripple is, again, it has a silky buff to it, which is what I really like. I'm also addicted. I don't really care about scents in products, but for some reason I'm addicted. Whoa, I haven't used that for a while, so it's just splurged out. That's enough product. I'm addicted to the smell of Tripple. It's got like this lavender fresh smell that I just find really, really nice. So I'm always sniffing it, which is not good. Again, you can put some of it out over your panel just so that when you're hitting other areas, I haven't given myself enough cable here. When you're hitting other areas, you're getting some fresh polish rather than, you know, if you start in one place and work your way, you tend to get less product in, you do it down here. So just a bit of the polish over the area you're polishing is always a good idea. And again, it depends what you want to do. So you could work this more with a slightly stiffer polishing pad, you know, still a light polishing pad. And you could sit here and, you know, you could go nice and slow with it and do your cross-hatch thing. Or you could just spread it out over your panel, which is what I tend to do. Forgive the cord. The cord's going to be in the way. Should have moved the cord. So again, oh, the smell's lovely. It's got a lovely smell. Beautiful scent on it, you know. Again, with the Tripple, you can wait for it to haze and buff it. Just want to see what they say about that on the instructions. Use sparingly. Yeah, well, we've done those 4 dots. We've done half a bonnet. It's probably right. Light pressure, backwards, forwards motion. Yeah, cover it. Once cured, remove excess with a microfiber. If you want, top it with paste wax. This one says do not use in direct sunlight or extreme temperatures. So I don't know why, but obviously it's going to dry out perhaps quicker when you're on a hot panel. The Poorboys seems to advertise that you can use it in the sun. Yeah, that's not so much of a factor for me, but you can see that it just forms a nice film on the car. When you don't use too much of it, you haven't got all this like wet lines of product. And that could be with any product if you use too much, I think, and especially a product that's going to be sort of curing off that you're going to buff. If you've got tons of it on there, then you're just going to clog up your microfiber and it's going to be more difficult to buff. And of course, machine application is very rapid and gives you a nice thin layer of it. And again, with this particular product, the buff on it is just really good. It's just, you know, it just, with these particular cloths as well, you don't put any pressure. You just sort of like glide in the cloth over. You can go in circles or do whatever you like. But what I don't want to see when I'm buffing is like, I go over it once and I can still see the product. I go over it again, I've nearly got it. And then I've got to go over that bit again just to get it back to a black finish. Because if it's like that, you've got to do that for the whole entire car. And the risks of when you've then finished completely of bits that you haven't buffed that show in certain lights goes much higher. And that's one of the reasons I like both these products is they're just easy to use. And, you know, you're not fighting against the product to get where you need to go. So, and if they're lighter to buff and you don't have to sort of buff hard on the paintwork, then there's less risk. I think when you're using these soft cloths, there's not much risk anyway. But if you're using a thinner microfiber that's not as well kept or something, and you're buffing hard on the paintwork and you pull up a little bit of grit or contamination that's lurking somewhere, then you can buffing scratches into the paint as well. So yeah, nice easy buff. I don't know why I'm going back over this so much, because it doesn't need it. I'm just making sure I haven't missed a bit. And you can go over the badges because you're putting it on thin. You're not building up like polish in the little nooks and crannies and all that. So yeah, it's just a really easy, it's a really easy product to use. And the thing for me is it's very difficult to separate these two products because they both work so well. They both work so well, and they both really do a very similar thing, but they are chemically different. So the Auto Finesse beats it on price. The Auto Finesse, there was another thing that was good with the Auto Finesse, I can't remember. Beats it on price. Yeah, I think the Black Hole might beat it on the buff by... They're both like... The Poorboys Black Hole buff is as good as I've ever seen. It's like a 95% mark on the buff. If the Poorboys Black Hole is a 95%, you know, then the Tripple is like a 93%. It's virtually the same. It might, maybe even some people might prefer it. I don't know. But I would just give the buff slightly to the Poorboys Black Hole. Yeah, it has that slickness. The thing is as well though, the Auto Finesse, you could use it on any paint colours, where you might be cautious about using this on lighter colour cars, although I have done. I have done on lighter colour cars and it seems fine, but for good reason. It is for black cars, and you would in theory have to have two products. So really, you know, the purpose of this video is to kind of compete, put these two products up head to head with each other. But the bottom line is, really, I like them both, and I both think they're good value. I think 13 quid for the Tripple, which is what you can get it for. It can be a bit more, can be a little bit less. I think 13 quid is about as cheap as you can get it for. I think that's a really good price for half a litre of polish, you know, or glaze or whatever it is. Absolutely fine with that price. Good value. I think $16.99 for the Poorboys is good. You can beat that price. You can get that Poorboys. Just what I was Googling on my phone, like Demon Tweaks were selling it, I think, for 13 quid as well. But typically, the Poorboys is another 3 or 4 quid on top of the Auto Finesse, but it varies. So yeah, and because they're both using wax in their formulation, as far as I know, I think this has some carnauba wax in there. This is like, Americans, for me, are the masters of the emulsions. They have some of the best emulsions, mainly because of that buffing. And this, I think, might use that kaolin, you know, that they call it like something like desecrated clay element or something. There's a funny word for it. And I went SDS stalking. But they always get the buff nice on the American products, and some of the European sort of emulsions and these types of products don't always match that nice buff, but the Tripple is one that does. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Don't know. Take your pick. Take your pick. Two little cracking products. On paper, the Auto Finesse is probably the better proposition because it doesn't have those limitations on colour, which is the big thing, and it's more advertised as not a pre-wax glaze. It's more advertised as an all-in-one, but like I say, they neither of them have got much going on in the way of heavy cut, which is what I want. I want that. Yeah, I don't even know if they contain aluminium oxide or bespoke abrasives. I don't think they do, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so again, we were sort of doing a similar type video the other day where we were talking about rapid rinseless wash, and we were talking about Hydro Save, and we were talking about the built hand QD, and I couldn't decide which ones, like, you know, which ones you have and all that sort of stuff. And I think, well, look, I've got them on the shelf, so like, it's just, those both make it. Yeah, really two good little polishes, and that's what your detailing shelf should be. Should have some options, I think, and all that. But next week, my brain will go into some sort of like weird mode where I get the overwhelming desire to get this as the minimum amount of products possible. You know, so it's like this really tidy efficient kind of thing where I don't have multiple options in different categories because I've decided X is the best. And but yeah, I think the reality of doing this is sometimes you have a few options. Like I've got options with the abrasives, I've got options with the water-based products, I've got options with glass sealants, I've got options with rinseless washes, you know, there and there, yeah, and there. Yeah, I'll whittle them down though, because also with certain products you do reviews on them and you don't spend that much time on them. You might do some testing with them and then like try and decide that one's the best or whatever, and then you start using that for the next couple of years, and then your understanding of it just increases from actually using it in different situations. Yeah, but very impressed with that rapid rinseless wash. Very good. So there you go. Can't decide between the two cracking products. What's your favourite? Help me out. But yeah, for all intensive purposes, they are top drawer detailing products that, you know, when they are products that I promise you, well, when they run out, I replace them. The thing is, when I run out of one of these, I'm about halfway through the triple and about halfway through the black hole. When I run out of one of these, I might as well just carry on and then switch over and empty the other one out. Yeah, and I suppose the dilemma is, would you then go and buy both of them again, do the same thing? I don't know. I think if you had to twist my arm, I might lean towards the black hole more because of that slidey, slick finish. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. So, thanks for watching. See you soon. I don't know.